This is Lightning Power Lunch, presented by Reef Rum on the Lightning Audio Network with Dave Mishkin and Greg Linnelli.
They're workers. They don't, when we need a spark or we need to kind of put a stop to maybe a team leaning on us a bit, they've done a great job in that. And, just watching Gordo play, he just never stops. His energy is off the charts. And Holmberg is a heavy kid, and he can protect pucks and cause disruption both ends of the ice. And then, Bjorky's a compliment to them because he can shoot the puck in the net. So they've done a great job for us.
Yeah, that line has done well. Don't know if it'll stay. Maybe it does. Maybe it won't. We've talked about that before. What do line combinations really mean in today's NHL? But John Cooper certainly going with that line that's generated some decent ice time. Maybe has tilted the ice in favor of Tampa Bay. We'll get into that a little bit more. It is a game night. And I think when you take a look at tonight's game, Chicago, we've got some news, though, beforehand, partner, that we want to get to. Let me bring in Dave Mishkin at Bolts Radio. And we appreciate everybody who is checking us out right now. Various ways you can do that, right, partner? We've got X, we've got YouTube, and what else? Facebook. So really anywhere you can.
We've got everything.
We're there.
We got old school. I can call it old school. The Lightning app.
Yeah.
The old-fashioned way without a picture.
Yep. So that's kind of where we are with where you can find us. But listen, you and I have been talking about, I think, the Lightning. They've got some depth, and how quickly can they go to it to get things going if called upon. And I don't know if this was all part of the plan in terms of the players that we thought were going to be sent down or going to be back up. But let's talk about the latest move for Tampa Bay, because it's somebody who impressed us during camp and certainly did well down in Syracuse. And I don't want to call this a revenge game for Dominic James, but
no,
an opportunity that what a whirlwind for this guy, Dave, to get in here and potentially, be in the lineup. Let's get to it.
Look, the Hawks maybe wanted to sign him, but we can say they mutually parted ways, or at least Dominic James let the Blackhawks organization know that he was going to head to free agency, which, the Lightning have experienced that most recently with Isaac Howard. Prior to that, Sammy Walker. There have been other players. Cole Gutman, the Lightning have drafted. They went to college. They ran out the clock. They moved on to another organization. So it happens. In this one instance, the Lightning are the beneficiaries of the fact that Dominic James decided not to sign with Chicago. So I don't know that it's a revenge game per se, but this guy showed in short order that he is a player. That's what he showed during the preseason. He is a center, and they used him at center. I think he's going to play center tonight. We can get into the lineup. But he got into back-to-back home games during the preseason, showed very well in the first game, and then they threw him right back in the second game and showed well in that game. And then he got hurt either in that game or maybe in practice after that game. So the Orlando game, which was the first of the three in a row against the Panthers, he did not play in that. He was injured. But he came back and played in the Thursday home game and continued to do well. And then we had the 322 penalty minute game, which was a hard game to assess really anyone. But, they used him on defense. What did he play? Almost 30 minutes in that game. So,
yeah.
He did everything that was asked of him. But I go back to the earliest impression that we had of him. He just entered the game and made an immediate impact. And that's hard to do. It's hard to do when you're new to an organization. He didn't really have the same level of reps that a lot of other players got, because Chicago was like, you can run out the clock, but we're not inviting you to our, prospect tournament. And he didn't have a rookie tournament that a lot of players have when they're, in their first or second year pro, or even before they turn pro. He just got dropped into the Lightning's training camp, thrown into a preseason game, and he's done nothing but impress. So am I surprised that they have recalled him? No. I think that when he was sent down, we kind of felt he's going to be sent down because he's waiver exempt. Mm-hmm. They can send him down. He went down to Syracuse. He had 5 points in 4 games. He did very well. He had an overtime winner. Didn't slow up. By all counts, he was centering their top line. So the Lightning sent down Geekie. We weren't quite sure exactly how this was going to unfold. They do have 12 forwards, but they've decided to call him up, and he's going to make his NHL debut tonight. Now, the other guy that they called up, Charles-Edouard Destou, I said yesterday, I said the day before, I think he's in. I was wrong. He's not in. So the Lightning are using the same 6 defensemen that they've been using since Moser came back from suspension and since Crozier got hurt. So Destou is the scratch. Girgensons is not in tonight. Hopefully as soon as this weekend, he may be able to play. And Jack Finley is the other scratch. So the fact that Finley is the other scratch,
what do you make of
that? That means James is in for Finley, and it may be, in fact, at least at the start of this game tonight, James literally is in for Finley. Like, James is taking the spot that Finley had been in the last few games, which is that quote-unquote fourth-line center with Chafee and Douglas. Now, before the fans start writing at us in all caps and exclamation points, getting their comments across. Look, I mean, I like the fact that they're going to use him at center. They're not going to replace Braden Point. They're not going to replace Sorelli. And we just heard Cooper talking about the Gord line. So if you're going to get Dominic James into a game, first of all, his NHL debut, I understand that he played a lot in the preseason, and you want to use him at center, I think that this is a smart decision. Now, he may not be used to playing with guys who are 6'9", like Curtis Douglas, but we'll see how he does. If he just plays his game, I think he is going to be an effective member of the Lightning's lineup tonight. The other option, of course, would be to not use him at center and elevate him up the lineup and use him at wing. And that is something the Lightning, at least at the start of this game, are deciding not to do. Does this mean, though, that we might not see him in a different role as this game unfolds? It's possible. But I can see the fans being like, why are they calling him up and playing this dynamic player who has a lot of skill on the fourth line? Well, he's a center. It's his NHL debut. This is where the spot is open. They made the spot open for him. Let's see how he does.
So we have been talking about competition, and this is the fruits of that. You have options. If Tampa Bay in another year that had a depleted system, you might not be going to guys as much down in Syracuse. And James is interesting because of the route he took to get here. Mm-hmm. And it felt he had to make an impact. He really couldn't think about things. He had to just get in there and play hockey.
Yeah.
When he got here, and he did. And he showed well. And I always go back to the word you used a little bit when you were calling games in the preseason when James had the puck, and it was dynamic.
Mm-hmm.
Now, listen, that doesn't mean when we say dynamic, he's going to be Nikita Kucherov. But there was a little bit of swag to his game. There was that little punch to it where you're like, yeah, okay.
He has a pizzazz to his game.
There's a little something I want to see there, coming down the wing with speed, and he has a stick handling move, gets the shot off. Okay. What's going to be interesting is that while he is a different player than Geekie in terms of size and maybe even speed, depending on how you want to look at it, you would both put those guys in the category of skilled, mm-hmm. right? Different maybe in the way they go about it, but skilled. But does James do better in a limited role more so than Geekie? Understanding that they're both skilled. In other words, James may be looking at this. He really doesn't have the pedigree that Geekie had in terms of the draft pick and everything and how high. And that maybe he feels like he's got a little bit more of a chip on his shoulder, maybe playing into it a bit more. But Not that he's accepting being on a fourth line role more than Geeky, but there is a little bit of, okay, I'm just trying to survive. I got to go out every shift, and if it's 8 minutes and I'm playing with Douglas and somebody, I'm going to make the most of that, and I'm going to score as much as I can, or at least show the staff what I can do, because I don't know if I have as many lifelines as a Connor Geeky would have because of the draft status. I do think there's something to that. And so I wonder if he will be best served doing very well on a fourth line more so than a Geeky, even though they're skilled players. And you would say, conversely, they probably need to play with guys around them who can do some things. I don't know. I'm wondering if they're looking at this and saying, look, can you give us a little bit more than what we're getting? Obviously, on the fourth line, we want to tilt the ice a little bit. And maybe James's skill set, certainly more than Finley's, has the potential to allow for more possession time and maybe to put a little more pressure on the opposing team defensively, more so than what you got from Finley, who was, look, meat and potatoes guy, face-offs, big body. But like we just said, James is a little more dynamic, and so maybe they are looking for that. I actually like that a lot, partner, and I'm anxious to see how he does tonight.
Well, and then, of course, by taking Finley out, and we talked about this when Finley was out, you're taking out a right-handed centerman to take draws in the defensive zone to the right of the goalie. Is the opponent a factor here? The Blackhawks have not had a good face-off year, not as poor as the Lightning. They're better than the Lightning, but they're under 50%. They are a smidge under 50%, maybe a little bit more than a smidge under 50%, in large part because they have one guy who is winning 58% of his faceoffs, Jason Dickinson. He is injured. So they are not throwing out the same level of faceoff guys that, let's say, the Lightning saw in the Boston game. Does that mean that the Hawks can't win 65% of the faceoffs tonight? No. I mean, of course they could win 65% of the faceoffs. The Lightning need to get better as a team regardless on faceoffs. Braden Point is under 40% right now for the year. I think he's lost 20 more faceoffs than he's won. There have not been a lot of faceoffs taken at this point. I mean, for a guy who takes them regularly, that's a tough percentage. But the need to have that right-handed faceoff guy may be a little bit less based on the opponent. That might be an ancillary consideration. I think they wanted to get James in. And whether he's playing on the fourth line or not on the fourth line, what I would like to see from him tonight, you hear, coaches tell players, play your game. What is Dominic James's game? It's speed. It's playing with energy. It's driving play. And
yes.
If he does that, I don't think it really matters who his wingers are. Like, he can get the puck and he can push the pace. He can accelerate to the red line, carry it in, dump it in, go get it. I'm not saying he has to do it all himself, but I just think that's what we saw from him in the preseason. That's what the Lightning want to see from him tonight. He goes to the net too. I should mention that. Like,
he has
no hesitation. He plays in a straight line, this guy. Now, again, I sound excited about it. I'm really excited for him. I think it's a great story. Let's exercise some caution here. It's his first NHL game. Okay? But what he has showed since he has joined the Lightning's organization has been nothing but, positive traits. So hopefully he can carry that forward.
I'm excited.
Into this game tonight.
And what can this do for the team? You get more of that young blood in here.
Yeah, Kobe talked about that yesterday.
It makes a lot of sense.
When he joined us, he's like, he was talking about Destu, but he's like, sometimes, you break up the rhythm of the room in a good way.
Yeah. I think it's incredible. To be very clear, Finley, I understand why they like him. I know the face-offs are a big deal. He's a big guy. That's all attractive. It hasn't wowed me yet, and I'm okay if you feel like you need to bring somebody up to see if they can wow you. Because I don't think Finley's status in the lineup was ever going to be cemented. I think, look anything, partner. unless you're winning 60% of your faceoffs as a fourth liner, you do need to show some skills offensively. You do need to push back a little bit. And I think that's part of this depth process most teams go through. You've got to have guys that go up and down but can force the issue. I'm excited to see James because I think, he can provide that. Mark says, is Cooch playing tonight?
Yes.
He will be in the lineup, and that's a positive thing.
Lightning had an optional skate. Cooch wasn't out there, but we saw who the extras were. So Kucherov is in. And Kucherov skated the last 2 days.
Yeah.
Playing with Hagel and Cirelli.
And look, let's call it what it is. I mean, there was an article today that Ed Encina have it from the Tampa Bay Times about Brandon Hagel and his rough start. I mean, I think we're stating the obvious there, but this team doesn't go anywhere without the big boys performing at a level we're used to seeing. And so does Cooch come back tonight and have himself a 4-point night? I mean, I could see that. Does Hagel going against, his former team have himself a night?
He's played well against the Hawks.
He has.
Since he has been a member of the Lightning. That article that Ed wrote, I'm not surprised to read this, that Hagel said this, but he was putting a lot of pressure on himself and getting frustrated that he hadn't scored or produced a lot.
Yeah.
So at the same time that he said that, he said, having these few days allowed me a chance to reset and kind of calm down a little bit. I should call up the article and read the quote exactly. But that's the essence of what he said. So hopefully that serves him well. He can take a breath, take a beat. This is probably not the right word to use when you're talking about like the best of the best in an athletic field of competition, but relax. Like,
right.
Do what you do. Do what you've done.
Yeah. There's
almost
enough of a track record.
Yeah, almost 30 goals 2 years ago, 35 goals last year. And, that article mentioned he's had chances. He's hit a couple of posts. Pastrnak denied him an empty netter in Boston. Yep. All that is true. But I think he would like to be driving play more. The Lightning need more guys to drive play. And that may be part of this recall as well with James. Because the one thing that we saw from Dominic James just about every time he was out on the ice in the preseason, and some of those preseason games were against mostly non-NHL opponents. Yeah. Some of them were against mostly NHL opponents. The Thursday game against the Panthers, that was mostly the Florida Panthers team. When he went out on the ice and he had a chance to have a positive impact, he made a positive impact. There have not been enough guys this year on the Lightning who have done that consistently. So inject a dose of that into the lineup. Let's see what happens. Also, I think the 4 days probably is it's going to help.
I would agree. I mean, I think, do you expect the initial adrenaline bump you're going to get from James tonight, being in the lineup and being excited and maybe having a little bit more juice to his game for sure? But I think we saw enough in the preseason that I want to see more of what he can provide. And honestly, if I'm getting way ahead of myself, but why not? This is what we do. You could also see him playing with skilled players if John Cooper's looking to mix some things up. Would you be at all surprised if they were like, James, go up there and play on the second line?
Hopefully the game goes the way Coop wants it to tonight, that he just keeps the lines intact the way that he had them.
Spectre, we call that Spectre, yes. whatever you want to call it. All of this competition being created in the bottom six via the performance of players. The Syracuse is great, in my opinion. Yes, it is.
Agreed. Syracuse did lose its first game of the year last night. They had a tough start to the schedule too. 5 of the first 6 or 4 of the first 5 on the road? So they lost at Rochester. Geekie did score, which is good. Good sign for him. I saw the goal. It was a one-time slap shot from the right circle, lefty shot. He beat the goalie cleanly. That's going to help him. But yes, agreed. There is competition among the bottom 6 forwards, if we want to call it that, in Syracuse.
We've said it.
Meaning the bottom 6 forwards with the Lightning, competition for those spots with the Lightning and trickling down to Syracuse.
I told you, I've told the story a number of times. It might have been the Battle of Alberta for Alberta, Edmonton, Calgary, and that kind of rivalry. And one of the things that always stood out about that book is that, one, it didn't have any pictures for me. So I was able to read the whole thing, partner, even though because I'm more of an image guy. But Glenn Sather had talked about in the book, and I feel like this was such a brilliant point on his part, that it still holds true, not only in the NHL, but in any sport, is that, really where you're going to move the needle with your team is your third and fourth lines. And he was talking about this in the 80s because, you're typically your top six, they're not going anywhere. Are there exceptions? Yeah, sure. You can see that in the NBA. You can see that in baseball, however you want to configure that. But the bottom line was, what do you have coming through the pipeline?
Yeah.
Who do you have breathing down your neck? Because if you're able to make even those incremental changes and adjustments on your third and fourth lines, the Lightning are proof that when they were most successful, did they have the best goaltender in the world? Yeah. Did they have two or three of the best offensive players in the world? For sure. Was Victor Hedman the best defenseman in the game? If he wasn't number one, he was certainly in the top three. But what separated everybody? It was the third line to a large extent and what they were able to do. And so the Lightning, of course, understand that. It's easier said than done to get there because if you're trading away draft picks to get players to win now, that's hard to do. But I think the Lightning have put themselves in a position. Oh, by the way, Nick Paul is going to be coming back. A little bit more depth there at some point. If you can have at least a few options down in Syracuse to come up and challenge, particularly veterans, but in this case, a guy like Finley, who is a younger guy, but maybe isn't standing out as much as you would like, it's nice to have 3 or 4 options to say, go ahead, who wants it? And look, Geeky's an example of a guy who they sent down because they want to see a little bit more. So I think it's completely positive. It means your organization is working the right way when you can play your best players and not bring up a guy by default because you have to. Yeah. And I think that's the exciting part. Tampa Bay says, I'm not sure why Finley isn't a lock in the lineup, especially since he's useful for faceoffs where we struggle.
So I think this is you're swapping a center for a center, and this may be a game where having the right-handed centerman is less important. Now, look, if we come on the air tomorrow for our show and we talk about key defensive zone draws the Lightning lost to the right of the goalie because they didn't have a righty to take it other than Braden Point, who wouldn't necessarily be used in that position, okay, fair enough. But we don't know what is going to happen in the game tonight, and the coaches have to field the lineup they think, gives them the best chance for success. So they are slotting in a center for a center. Could they have 2 centers on that line? Of course they could. But I think they want to see James in the middle. Let him take the faceoffs. See how he does.
Yeah.
He did okay in the preseason, but he is a lefty.
Sure.
Point that out.
So I
do want to mention, Greg, before we get to more questions, just because we haven't really talked about the Hawks. So they started 0-2-1. They have not lost in regulation since. They were 3-0-1 in their last 4. They've had some overtime, obviously 2 overtime losses. So they've only had the 2 regulation losses, and those 2 regulation losses, I'm looking at their game by game, were both by a goal. So they've been in, if they haven't won the game, they've been in every game, okay? Their stats on some level are very similar to the Lightning stats, though. And what I'm referring to specifically are shots for, shots against. They have been on the wrong side of a lot of shot differentials. So the Lightning, I think, are at a -8. They might be at, I'm doing this off the top of my head, like 23.1 shots for and 31.1 shots against. It's somewhere in that range. The Hawks have taken a few more shots on average, but they've also allowed a few more shots on average, and their differential is about 7. So they're basically allowing 7 more shots per game than they are taking. The difference is, this is a huge difference, their goals against per game is 7th in the NHL. So they have gotten, I think the Lightning have gotten good goaltending.
Yeah,
but that good goaltending has not
yeah.
bailed out the Lightning to the point that they are at a 2.43 for goals against per game. Spencer Knight and Soderblom are the two goalies.
And people are probably like, wait, Spencer Knight's with Chicago?
Well, I think you're going to talk about Soderblom.
Well, Soderblom.
Because
Soderblom.
Soderblom's, so Arvid Soderblom, goaltender with Chicago, his brother plays for Detroit. That brother is Elmer Soderblom. It's like trying to change the thinking from my right brain to my left brain.
Does it?
Yeah.
Does that make any sense?
So we saw, I'll give you a little backstory here. So we saw Ken Daniels, longtime announcer with Detroit, before the Detroit game. And I'm like, Soderblom, huh? He's like, it's Soderblom. It's Soderblom. Ken is very, I said, what do you call the goalie in Chicago? Soderblom.
Right.
I'm not buying that. It's Soderblom. Of course, we had Brian Engblom there too. So like, oh yeah, I get that. So we see the Hawks this morning. So I see John Weideman, right? And I'm like, it's still Soderblom, right? He's like, I don't understand why they do this. We went to the player. We asked him how to say his name. That's what he said. So they're trying to honor the player's wishes, the player on their team. So two brothers, same last name. They are choosing to pronounce it differently. The goalie in Chicago, it's like you're planting flowers. You got the sod, you got the dirt, you got the bloom, right? The guy in Detroit, you're fixing a garment. You're Soderblom. That's how I try and remember all of this. Anyway, the goalie whose last name starts with the letter S has had a very good year, as has Knight. And you're right. People maybe forgot the Blackhawks acquired Spencer Knight last year, and he is going to be their main guy, and he has had terrific numbers this year. I mean, you look at, so Spencer Knight has lost the games that they have lost in regulation. So his record is 2-2-1. His goals against is 1.96. Save percentage 0.937. Soderblom has a better record, 1-0-1, but his other numbers are not as good. So it's like, how are the Hawks doing it? Is this sustainable? Is it sustainable to be giving up 7 more shots on average per game than you're taking and relying on your goalie to keep kicking out pucks to the tune of under 2?
I mean, probably not.
Probably not, but they'll take the points where they can get them. And it's what we often say. If you can keep the puck out of your net, you give yourself a chance to get points. And that's what they've done.
You're
they
right.
also have, so they've not had like some of the top scorers in the league. Like Vegas is coming in Sunday. They've scored a lot of goals this year. We're going to get to them over the weekend. I'm looking at their scoring. So 2 of their young players, Bedard and Frank Nazar, we talked about him. Also I believe he was a first-round pick as well. He kind of burst on the scene last year.
Yeah.
He's a talented offensive player. Right. They both lead the Hawks. They have 7 points in 7 games. So it's not like they have 14 points in 7 games. They're scoring enough, but what they are doing is they are averaging over 3 goals scored per game. So they are getting scoring depth. Teravainen has 6 points. Andre Burakovsky's on their team. He's got 4 points. Ryan Donato had an overtime winner in their last game. He's got 5 points. So they are spreading the wealth. Tyler Bertuzzi has 5 points. They're spreading the wealth kind of up and down their lineup. They're kind of getting scoring depth, and they're getting very good goaltending they're keeping the puck out. So whether it's they're giving up chances and the goalies are stopping them, or they're just giving up shots and not allowing a lot of chances or as many chances, unclear to me. But that's how they've gotten to a 3-2-2 record. So what this says to me is the Lightning should have an opportunity with a spirited performance to have periods of time in this game, maybe not full periods, but stretches of time where they dictate play. And then they're going to have to dig in. It's going to be Knight tonight. So they're going to have to dig in to beat Spencer Knight based on how he's playing. But the Hawks are not suffocating teams, is what I'm saying. They're kind of doing it a little differently, and we would hope to see a very motivated Lightning team tonight.
Haven't seen them, so can't say. You don't want to say they're doing it with smoke and mirrors. You know, that might be too harsh because that's unfair. However, your goaltending can cover up some warts.
Yeah.
I mean, look, before the Lightning were winning cups, and maybe weren't as committed to playing defense as they would eventually be. What's the one thing you and I always talked about? I mean, Bishop and Vasi were covering up a lot of breakdowns.
Spencer Knight, there's a reason why the Panthers were so high on Spencer Knight when he joined them out of college, which they traded to get him from Buffalo. But if I'm remembering that right, I think they did. Anyway, he came out of BC and he jumped right into that series in 2021. And I remember the Lightning won that series in 6 games. And talking to the Panthers broadcasters after that series ended, what I heard was, if only we had played. No, they did take him. Panthers took him in the first round. I was thinking of they made a trade with Buffalo in the Reinhardt deal and moved a goalie to Buffalo. But so they drafted Knight. He was a first-round pick, had a great college career, finishes at BC, joins them for the end of that season into the playoffs. And coming out of that series, which the Lightning won in 2021, what I heard from the Panthers was, if only we had played Spencer Knight from the beginning of the series. Remember who started that series in that? Bobrovsky, who has led them to 2 Stanley Cups in the last 2 years. So Knight has had a very rough time of it since breaking on the scene in 2021 in the playoffs. He had to take some time away, went into the player assistance program. I think he had to spend a full year in the minors. And now he's got a fresh start. And he's going to a young team looking to build. And at least to this point, and I think he had a decent finish to the year last year after he arrived in Chicago, he is playing like the guy the Panthers thought they were getting when they took him in the first round.
Sometimes goaltenders, it takes a little bit of time.
Yeah.
And maybe for him.
Yeah, he had some issues though.
Yeah.
Like, he did. He hit a rough patch. He had some issues in terms of dealing with whatever was going on that he had to go into the player assistance program. And good for him that he's feeling better and playing well. The Lightning hope that they give him a rough game tonight, but we'll see. He is 3-1 in his career against the Lightning in the regular season. So obviously the Panthers and Lightning have played a lot during the time that he was in Florida, so that tells you how little he played. But
what was the series where the Panthers played 3 goaltenders?
That's
right?
the series.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like,
Chris Drieger as well.
Right, Chris Drieger. I can remember talking about that with you on the show, and it was like, well, if you're playing 3 goaltenders, you don't have one.
Mm-hmm.
But there was a lot of talk coming out of the Panthers camp that the following year that Spencer Knight would be that guy. I mean, there really was, because did he perform well in the limited action against the Lightning? I'd have to go back and remember exactly how he looked. It wasn't awful, but it was one of those things
where they put him in for Game 5, and the Panthers won Game 5.
That's it.
And then they put him in for Game 6. The Lightning won Game 6 here in Tampa. Knight played well in Game 6, but the Lightning were the better team in that game, and they won via a shutout, because that, of course, was the year where the Lightning won all of their clinching games in the 4 rounds via a shutout. But I think the Panthers were ruining, at least the broadcast wing of the Panthers organization was ruining the fact that Knight, who had been on the team, it's not like he wasn't there. He joined them late in the regular season, but Joel Quenneville was the coach, and he's like, I'm not throwing a rookie into a playoff series. We're going to play Bobrovsky. And they didn't get to Knight until Game 5. Anyway, that now is long ago history. I mean,
that is.
Knight is with a new team.
How many years ago was that?
Yeah, 2021. So, I mean, how many players are even left on the Lightning who played in that series? I mean, a couple were with them, left, and came back, notably McDonough and Gord. But, most of them, Vasilevsky was there, Point, Kucherov, Hedman, right? Chernak,
Cirelli.
A few, but...
Right. Incredible. Greg says, great show, guys. Thank you.
Thank you, Greg. Nice name.
Yeah. 2 G's, 1 G. It is what it is. Stefan says, not a question, but just wanted to say how much I appreciate your energy, enthusiasm, and passion for calling Lightning games, Mish. You're the greatest.
Thank you. Is that Stephanie? Stefan?
How do you... Stefan.
Stefan, I'm sorry.
Stefan, I think. You
I
know?
have my reading glasses on. I should probably switch to my other glasses in the studio. I can see my laptop in front of me.
That's
Seeing
important.
The screen was a little far away. I'm
appreciate that.
getting old. I got my reading glasses and my distance glasses.
Turn it off! Nick says the Hawks hugely improved their power play with Nazar and Rinzel this year. I think as long as we stay out of the box, we should be okay.
Well, it is Nazar and Rinzel,
Nazar.
just to let you know, Greg.
You know.
They are tied for 21st this year on the power play. It's early days. But yeah, I mean, look, you add skill, that's going to help your power play. I should mention they also have the number 2 overall pick in 2024. I think I mentioned that a couple of days ago. Levshinov is his name. He's from Belarus. But, you know, he played in the USHL. He played at Michigan State. So... And then last year he was a pro player. So he's not new to pro hockey. He got into some games last year with the Hawks. His name is, John Weideman told me this, Artyom is how you say his a fit. He's like, you can call him Artem, but we call him Artyom. I'm like, well, if you call him Artyom, I can say Artyom. Artyom Levshinov is his name, which is a little bit of a mouthful. But
That is a mouthful.
I think they're very high on him.
What's his nickname? Archie?
Levy? Yeah, Archie. Archie would be a great nickname. I just want to mention, and this is a guy I've known for a very, very long time. I'll tell
Please
you
do.
exactly how long. The Hawks captain, Nick Foligno, had an absence. He missed 3 games. His daughter, I was reading about it, she's 12. She was born with a congenital heart defect. I may not be saying it quite right, but she's had multiple surgeries since birth on her heart. And had another one. Like, I think there was an emergency situation that they had to tend to, and it was in Boston. The Hawks were in Boston near the start of the year. I'm not sure if, like, she was there. I'm not exactly sure how that unfolded, but she got treated. She's better. She got discharged. Nick Foligno is back with the team, and I can't say enough about the Foligno family. So Mike Foligno, Nick's dad, was coaching in Hershey during 4 of the 8 years that I was there, my final 4 years in Hershey. And so when Mike and his family arrived, he became the head coach. Nick Foligno was about to turn 11. So, I mean, I've known Nick Foligno since he was basically a little kid.
Wow.
And, you know, watched him play kind of on the travel team in Hershey, doing very well, of course. And, you know, his mom tragically died young, breast cancer. My wife subsequently had breast cancer and, you know, went through treatment successfully. Janice Foligno was Mike's wife. So the Foligno family, there were 2 girls, 2 boys. The 2 boys were the younger of the 4 kids, and they're both in the NHL now, Nick and Marcus. Funny, Marcus, I think, was 7 maybe when they arrived, and now he's this big hulking guy, right?
Turned himself into a pretty good player,
Oh
too.
my gosh, yeah,
You know?
he's a man. He is a man's
Yeah, he
man
is.
when you see him.
For sure.
But anyway, I'm really glad for Nick and his family, you know, his own family now, that everything is doing okay with his daughter. And it sounds like he's back with the team and presumably will be in the lineup tonight. But just a good person,
people.
a great family, yes. And I'm glad he's had a very long and productive and successful NHL career. He's hurt the Lightning over the years.
Been a good
particularly
player.
when he was in Columbus.
Has he been a captain?
Yeah, he was captain
I think,
in
wasn't he?
Columbus.
Yeah.
Remember that 3-0 game? The Lightning were up in Game 1 of 2019, and Columbus rallied. It was Nick Foligno who got them on the board with a breakaway goal in the second period. But anyway, this is his 3rd year in Chicago, and just wanted to mention that.
Yeah, no, that's a good story. The Folignos, no doubt about it. Pronounced Stefan.
Thank you.
Yes.
Stefan. Yeah, now I see it.
He's
I couldn't
listening.
see if there was an I at the end of it, which is my own vision problems
okay.
because the screen is kind of far away from me.
That's
But
all right. What does Aaron say? The younger core of the Cup teams came up through our system. Did they contribute way faster, or are we forgetting how much patience we had with them? Killorn, Palat, Johnson. What can we learn there?
So 3 completely different situations there. So Killorn was a 2007 draft pick who went 4 years of college.
Yeah.
So he was a much different player when the Lightning acquired him through the draft, or drafted him, I should say. And he finished up his senior year at Harvard and went right to Norfolk. And that was the year that Norfolk won the Calder Cup. Palat was a 7th-round draft pick and as a 20-year-old. So turned pro the next year and was part of that Norfolk team that had 2 years with John Cooper. The first year they did well, and then the second year they did phenomenally well and won 28 straight games and won the Calder Cup. And Tyler Johnson was an undrafted free agent. So Johnson and Palat probably are a little bit more similar than Killorn. But, had Killorn was basically turning pro in his early 20s, right? Which is different than, some other players. So I don't know that the Lightning had more. Did he say we had more patience or they progressed faster? I mean, they did let those players spend a few years in the minors. It was the next year, the lockout-shortened season of 12-13, that all three of those players came up. Killorn came up and stayed up. Johnson and Palat came up and went back, and they were in Syracuse at that point. They had made the move from Norfolk to Syracuse, and Syracuse got to the Calder Cup final in 2013.
So they did some winning. They did some winning down in the minors.
They lost. Right? They lost actually to Jeff Blashill's Grand Rapids team, Detroit's affiliate, and then it was the next year that Johnson and Palat came up and stayed up, 13-14. In fact, they were the 3 Calder Trophy finalists in 13-14 were Tyler Johnson, Andre Palat, and Nathan MacKinnon, who was an 18-year-old rookie. Yes, and MacKinnon won the award.
Thought 3, 4, 5. Yes, Alex Killorn went to Harvard.
Why is that a surprise?
Well, he's got a question mark. Yeah, there must be something else there. Maybe it's.
Are
we stating the obvious?
So Harvard, people may be like, Harvard has a terrific Division I hockey program.
They do.
So Ryan Donato, whose dad, Ted Donato, played at Harvard when I was at Yale broadcasting games, and Ted Donato ended up going on to play in the NHL, at least in part for the Boston Bruins. His son, Ryan Donato, also played at Harvard. I don't think it's possible he overlapped with Killorn. I'd have to go back and look. I think they may have just missed each other. But Ryan Donato actually was with the Bruins at the start of his career. Oh, it's a joke every time somebody mentions.
Okay. That's probably right.
We are not in on that joke.
Who's the best? I mean, this is probably the last 20 years. I'm putting us both on the spot. The most productive, and I guess you could look at it. Let's go offensively, partner. Player to come out of an Ivy League school.
Well, I'm just going to say this name, and it's not in the last 20 years, and it's not offense. But
before you do that, Killorn's had over 200 goals in his career.
Yes,
I mean that's a pretty good career for anybody.
He would be up there of the kind of current iteration.
Yeah.
But I would probably say the best player to come out of an Ivy League school was Ken Dryden.
Well, I mean,
not only what he did during the time he was with the Canadians, but I think he lost like a total of 4 games in college, something crazy like that. Bad, right? So I think you'd be hard pressed to find another player.
Well, let's say the last 20 years
to reach Dryden's level.
Yeah, the last 20 years. I'm trying to think.
Harvard has produced a lot of NHLers. Cornell, not just Dryden, they have done it. My alma mater, Yale, has had a couple. Alex Lyon played at Yale.
Yeah.
They've produced more minor league players, pro players, than NHLers. Remember Riley Nash? He was with the Lightning for a little bit, also with Columbus. He played at Cornell. Dartmouth has had some. But I'm not
trying to think.
Killorn is a pretty good pick, actually.
Paul Correa went to Maine.
Yeah, you said Ivy League.
Yeah, I said I was trying to think of guys that went to college.
Well, college is a different category.
Well, no, I didn't know if he was Ivy League or not.
But there are 8 Ivy League schools, but only 6 have Division I hockey programs. So you're whittling it down a little bit. You got Brown, you got Princeton. Jeff Halpern played at Princeton.
Actually, Jeff Halpern's probably in a similar boat to Killorn in terms of goals. Now, I think Halpern was a higher draft pick than Killorn. Correct me if I'm wrong. Was he a first-round pick, Halpern?
No, I don't think so.
Let me see.
You can look it up.
Joe Nieuwendyk.
Joe Nieuwendyk. That's a great
would have to
example.
be a
Another
great job,
Cornell
Steve.
guy. Yeah. I would say of the guys that we mentioned, Nieuwendyk and Dryden were probably at the top of the heap. And there may be some other players that I'm just not thinking of.
So Halpern played 14 years, 152 goals was his career.
What was his draft round?
Undrafted.
Oh, interesting.
How
So
about
the
that?
Caps
I
just
thought he was
signed him.
drafted.
He was
Incredible.
from that area. I mean, he grew
Matt
up in
Molson.
Maryland.
He was pretty good.
Yeah,
He had a good run.
Matt
He had a
Molson
good run with the
career.
Islanders.
Sure. Cornell has a track record of producing pro players and NHL players. Even though they have not necessarily been, like, it's not like they're winning the ECAC every year, but they are just a really solid program.
Aaron, this is good. I mean, they're not George Parros, Dominic Moore. Dominic Moore
Dominic
turned
Moore
himself
went to
into
Harvard.
a good player.
I would say
You know?
Killorn has had more of. I love Dominic Moore, and he and I actually connected a lot when he was here, and I'm really happy to see him. He's doing broadcasting in Utah now. I would say Killorn has had a more impactful NHL career than Dominic Moore.
Have
Although
we,
Dominic Moore did have an impactful NHL career.
Have we discovered something here? Alex Killorn might be the best Ivy League player in the last 15 years. Hey, come on. If you include the rings
Yeah.
and, again, the pedigree a little bit. Jeff Halpern, yes, was a teammate with Ovi. I do remember when Halpern
Halpern
first came up.
assisted on Ovi's first 2 goals. I remember when
that?
Ovi broke the record last year. I asked Halpern about that.
Nice. Michael also says, hoping to see the boys come out focused and hungry tonight. I think we're all kind of hoping that is the case because, I think fans are already getting a little uncomfortable with some of the stuff. And I went
Lightning
to
have also been idle, which I think is actually good for them. We don't want a lot of these breaks because you're going to be making up the games, and the Lightning are going to have some condensed parts of the schedule where they're going to have a lot of games in a short period of time. But based on the 2 back-to-backs with the travel, this is a good time. We use this word a reset. This is a good time for them to try and get a reset. But as I said on yesterday's show, this is only a reset if they change course of what we've kind of been seeing litter their first 6 games.
Yeah. Thaw also says Ovi is like the LeBron of hockey. I don't know if that's the case. I think that's actually an insult to Ovi. Yeah, Ovi's stayed with one team.
Yeah, that's
Don't know if
true.
there's a
Well,
joke.
I don't know if that was the.
Don't know there was a joke there.
The Vinny LeCavalier, we drafted the Michael Jordan of hockey, which Art Williams famously said when the Lightning drafted LeCavalier, which is unfair to Vinny at 18.
That's a huge thing to. Just
Adam Fox went to Harvard, but Fox is earlier in his career than Killorn.
got a ways to
Maybe
go
when
there.
all is said and done, Fox will be the highest regarded or most well regarded Ivy Leaguer to play in the NHL in the last, whatever you want to say, 10 years.
Sure. Dusty the dog. We need like a bark when we have Dusty. Let's face it, our season starts tonight. All right, so what if they lose? Does that mean the season's going to start?
Yeah, and unfortunately, the
following game?
season has already started.
Might be
So
right.
they have 6 games.
I get what you're
in
saying,
the games
Dusty.
played
I get
column.
what you're
Yeah,
saying.
I understand too.
They got to get it going. Elgin says, Ovi has also only one championship, though, Greg. Yes, I know that. I think staying with one team, though, he didn't necessarily go chasing a championship. A lot of people feel like what LeBron did was, especially if you talk to the old-timers.
Basketball is just set up differently, though. I mean, it really is. I'm not trying to, make an excuse for LeBron or
look,
make an anti-excuse for Ovechkin, but
in fairness, too, nobody is saying Ovechkin is the best player to ever play in the NHL. Goal scorer.
yeah.
LeBron, you have those conversations. You do. Not with Ovi. In fact, I would dare say if you were to talk about the 10 greatest players in NHL history, I don't know if Ovi makes that list. Doesn't mean he's not a great player. It's just, the first 5, who do you think of?
Right.
Gretzky, Lemieux, mean, you can put Hal in there if you want, right? Bobby Orr. And then some would say, do you want to put Crosby in there? You don't have to, but some would say if that's the route you want to go. And then after that, I don't hear too much of that. Maybe you should. I'm not saying one way or the other, but that's just basically how I've heard people talk about it. LeBron, at least, there's been some of those conversations. I disagree with it, but there's those conversations.
The thing that, so have I told you about, I think it was a podcast I heard that talked about strong link sports and weak link sports. Did we have this conversation on the show?
I don't know.
So the idea is that a strong link sport, and I think it's strong link is the expression, means that your best players can more greatly affect the outcome of a game, just the way the game is structured. Basketball is a strong link sport. You could have one player play the whole game. You could isolate that player and let that player basically have the ball by himself on one side of the court. That player also has a chance to play defense. And if you have a phenomenal player, the best player in the world, that will, if not guarantee, it will really make the situation favorable for your team to be very, very good. A weak link sport is one in which the best player, even the best player in the world, has to rely more on the teammates who happen to be on the field or on the ice. And I think soccer is an example. We have great soccer players, certainly, through the years. Pele, when I was a kid, Messi. I mean, pick your great player.
Yeah.
But even those players are reliant on the other players on the field, in this instance, to help them do what they do. I think hockey is more on the weak link side of things. The only player who plays the whole game is the goalie, who only affects one really end of the ice. At most, the skaters play half a game.
Sure.
And, you are relying on your teammates to affect positive results. So I think when you talk about the best players in hockey, what you mentioned when you said Gretzky, Lemieux, or in a weak link sport, they were able to almost overcome that, right? And have such an outsized impact on their team and on the game, whether through success for the team or stats. Bobby Orr revolutionized the position of defense.
They were head and shoulders better than everybody else in a sport that sometimes you don't see that often.
That's the point, right?
Yeah,
so it's not saying that hockey is weak. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying the way the sport is set up, it's harder for one player to come in. Look at the Hawks. Connor Bedard is a superstar. He is a great player. The Lightning have seen that firsthand. He's had 2 outstanding games in this building. But where have the Hawks been the last 2 years in the standings? It's difficult. It's difficult for one player to come in and just elevate that team. I think one reason why the Penguins were able to do it wasn't only that they got Crosby. I mean, he had a huge impact, but they also got Malkin, they got Fleury, they got Jordan Staal. We talked about it 4 years in a row.
3 first ballot Hall of Famers.
Yeah, 4 years in a row they picked first or second.
Right. And 3 of them are Hall of Famers.
Right. And look at the Oilers in the 80s. Yeah, they had Gretzky.
100%.
Now, Gretzky, for
he
sure.
set the tone.
Gretzky,
yeah, right.
Right. But they had Messier, they had Coffey, they had Curry, they had Grant Fuhr.
Right.
So
Anderson. I mean, they had a lot of...
Yeah, like, it wasn't only that the best guy was the best guy. It was that they had other guys, too. And that's just the way the sport is set up. And some people might be like, I like that sport. I like
such
the
a
fact
fun
that
conversation.
you have to kind of have the full team. Whereas, I mean, you need a full team in basketball. If you ever saw the film Hoosiers, which is a great film, the coach Gene Hackman talks about like using your teammates, passing the ball around, right? Like
my team is on the floor. Remember that when they foul out and they play with 4? I love that.
Yes, some great lines in that.
That was great.
But it is true that you can isolate talent. That's really what you're doing. You can isolate talent more in basketball than you can in some other sports.
Where the knock on, and we'll get to some more questions. By the way, we have a lot of debate going on about these top players, which is fun because I think this is good. The basketball part is intriguing because a lot of people don't like the way the championships have been won this year, where guys have been able to pick and choose which stars can come. You look at the Birds and the Magics and the Jordans, obviously the 80s and 90s. you hear their comments about how things have been done today, about players going to teams and forming a great team kind of artificially. Sometimes they have a problem with it, and it's different. You're comparing eras, and I get that, but it makes these conversations a lot of fun. Elgin says that is an interesting conversation, though, of the guys currently playing. What's the range of where they wind up as all-timers? Cooch, McDavid, McKinnon, Ovi, when they're retired, what top X are they? So I think I'll answer that question knowing that I think out of all of them, McDavid, if he wins a cup, is going to start having these conversations about being in the best of all time, probably in the top 10. I just think, you talked about head and shoulders better than a lot of people. He reminds you a little bit of Crosby when he came in terms of, if he wasn't getting a point per game, sometimes 2 points per game, you thought, is there something wrong? Connor's got to win some championships. I do think, whether you agree with it or not, to get into that conversation, you need to be able to win.
And all the other guys in that list have.
And Kucherov, if he stays healthy, his points per game, he might go down as the most explosive Russian scorer of all time points leader. He may.
Yeah.
You could start to see him knocking on that door, I think, of the top 10. You might be able to make the case McKinnon as well.
Got to stay healthy, too.
You have to stay healthy, and you've got to do it over a long period of time. That has affected
Crosby. I mean, how many games has Crosby missed? I don't mean like counting them. I guess you can. But, did he miss 2 seasons worth of injuries? In his prime, especially, how much production did he miss out on because he had injury problems? He can't really control that. But that's true for all these other guys, too.
Yeah.
Maybe other than Ovi, who knows if this is his last year. But he has benefited from staying incredibly healthy. I mean, last year was really the first year that he had any kind of significant injury.
Yep. It's a fun debate. It's always fun because I'm not sure there's really a right answer. What has been intriguing, though, partner, is that most people, they'll put the Gretzky, Lemieux, or not in that order, but those three a lot of times when you're having those conversations. Mm-hmm. And I think that's, pretty impactful. But to answer your question about Crosby, I think he missed at least one season worth, probably 2.
Yeah.
And that's, what could have those numbers been, which is actually pretty interesting. Let's get to one more. EB says, I'd add Mike Bossy to that list. I mean,
he was in the Ovechkin. I mean, he wasn't built like Ovechkin. Yeah. He couldn't. I mean, he could shoot the puck. He couldn't shoot the puck like Ovechkin, but he could shoot the puck in the net. So 10 years of 50 goals.
Yeah,
is amazing.
That's incredible.
But that was his calling card. That's why I said he was kind of like Ovechkin.
Phil was in that conversation probably, and probably still is in the top 10. Mm-hmm. I mean, again, you have to give credit where credit is due. A lot of times we forget. Phil Esposito was in that top 5 for a long, long time. Let's end on this one. Aaron says, is Isaac Howard's situation more regrettable now, given the fact that we seem to have more opportunities for younger players that we would have thought, or is cap issue the bigger factor?
Well,
it's a good question.
I probably
it is a good
would.
Question.
I would probably take exception a little bit to the word regrettable, because that makes it seem like the Lightning just let this guy walk. Maybe that's not what Aaron meant, but there was nothing the Lightning could have done except basically agree to whatever it was Howard wanted offered to him, which they were going to do that, right? They had, for whatever reason, the two sides couldn't reach an agreement. And maybe because I'm a Lightning employee, I'm making it sound like it was more Howard was, forcing this off the rails than the Lightning. I have no knowledge one way or the other. So you want to use the word regrettable, whatever. It's over and done with, right? So the Lightning did get something for Isaac Howard. We should mention Sam O'Reilly was named captain of London. And I just think it's way too early to really assess where the chips are going to fall. What I will say is, in the absence of Howard or somebody like Howard, because O'Reilly is not turning pro this year, the Lightning did add some players through different ways and means that look pretty good. They added Stahoviak. They got him from Europe. I know it's a different position. They added Destu, also from Europe. He was named the top defenseman in the Swedish league last year. That's the top league in Sweden. The year he spent in the ECHL before he went overseas, he was named the top defenseman in the ECHL. This guy is a pretty good player. He has a good track record, even though he hasn't been in the NHL. And I will mention Dominic James. So the Lightning lost a guy who ran out the clock, but they also added a guy who ran out the clock on a different organization. So I wouldn't look at it that way. First of all, it's that ship has sailed. So I would look forward, not back. Mm-hmm. But I think the Lightning have guys. You know, if the Aaron is correct in Aaron's assumption and presumption that there are spots open for younger players, I think the Lightning have guys who are eager to fill those roles and may be able to fill those roles very effectively. And we're going to see Dominic James tonight, obviously, get his crack.
6:45, the puck drops.
Yes.
Right? 6:45, a little earlier, so make sure you still stay tuned to the pregame, which is going to be at 6:30. And, partner, you and I will be breaking it down tomorrow.
Show tomorrow.
Noon to 1.
And then back-to-back on the weekend, both games at home, both games at 5 p.m.
Yeah. Steve says 6:15 pregame.
Go out to dinner afterward if you want. That's right. Of course, you could have a wonderful meal at Benchmark International Arena with all the different food options. Steve
Man, we're getting all those. We're getting all those in, aren't
yes.
we? You know, I'm glad
Did you
mentioned
tell us
that.
about Reef Rum today, by the way?
I was just going to say you can enjoy
Yes.
some Reef Rum, smooth, versatile, and now pouring at Benchmark International Arena. Order a Tropical Wave or a Lightning Mule and taste why fans are switching. Reef Rum is a premium craft Florida local rum built on authenticity, quality, and easy drinkability. Ask for Reef Rum by name. Go Bolts. Enjoy responsibly. I actually say I want people to let us know when they have that, and then we'll get a cut of it. That's just how it works, partner.
Very
because
nice.
we are helping. 6:15 we are on the air, Steve said. So
yes, for tonight.
Yeah,
the 5 o'clock
tonight.
games are
For
over
tonight.
the weekend.
For tonight. Partner, we'll talk tomorrow. Great job, and I'll see you tonight.
Yeah, see you tonight.
That's great. Steve Versnick, thank you. Thanks to everybody who participated. We always love that from you guys, and we'll continue to have you on the show. I am Greg Linnelli. You've been listening to Power Lunch on Lightning Radio.